National Grid, one for 4 JO poles, one for 1 JO pole. And then we go to department reports, building, conservation, and fire, the town administrator update, and then action items consisting of possible action on the appointment of Joyce Bradley to the Council on Aging, possible action on the appointment of Fran O'Connell to the Sturbridge Council on Cultural Council, consideration and possible action on the appointment of Becky Gendro to the Open Space Committee, consideration and possible action on the appointment of Hugh Brower to the Open Space Committee, consideration and possible application for a one-day liquor license for Alice Ranka's Alice Fitness and Dance for October 18th, October 19th, January 25th, 2025, March 22nd, 2025, May 10th, 2025, for burlesque dancing shows from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Then we go on to F, consideration and possible action on a one-day liquor license for Gary Galanick, Pickleball U, for October 18th, 19th, November 30th, from the hours of 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then, again, consideration and possible action on an application for a one-day liquor license, again for Gary Galanick and Pickleball U, for October 8th, 2024, for a Fun at 5 networking event from 5 to 7:30 p.m. Then consideration and possible action on a transient vendor application for Kelly Carlini for a bridal show on September 22nd, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the host. Then consideration and possible action on a special use application for the Riverlands for Opakam Land Trust for a fall family scavenger hunt walk on October 19th, 2024, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Then consideration and possible action on the reappointment of Lynn Peterson to the Open Space Committee. Then consideration and possible action on the reappointment of Carol Goodwin to the Open Space Committee. Consideration and possible action to add an additional resident at large member to the Special Events Committee. Then consideration and possible action on the appointment of Carrie to the Special Events Committee for a term to expire September 16th, 2025. And then consideration and possible action to accept a donation to the Sturbridge Fire Department of a Frigidaire mini fridge and t-shirts from Yankee Spirits. Then consideration of possible action to allocate $250,000 for electrical upgrades on the town commons, including design, wiring, new lampposts, infrastructure, and the like. And then consideration of possible action to allocate $24,605 for roof replacement at pavilions at 60 Cedar Street. Then consideration of possible action to allocate an additional $25,000 for roadway beautification. Then consideration of possible action to allocate $20,000 for gift card purchases for those in need from Shaw's, Stop and Shop, Walmart, and Job Lot in $50 increments. Then old business, new business, correspondence, approval of minutes, citizens forum, and then adjourn. With that, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then I would just like to take a moment of silence just to stop and reflect about the dangers of political violence in this country, and that violence has no place in democracy in America. Please just take a moment of silence. Thank you. And then a public service announcements. I will begin. We have the Gaga Ball Pit grand opening on Monday, September 23rd at 4:30 p.m. Come one, come all. From Girl Scout camps to Sturbridge, we are bringing Gaga Ball to our town. This is a lovely project that the Girl Scouts have done at the rec, and please reach out to the rec department to see what's going on, how to play, and which of presumably your small children will be interested in attending. So with that, any public service announcements, Mary?
I have nothing.
Mary Dell? Mary Lou?
Nothing.
Okay, and we are past 6:35. So on to public hearings. Mary Dallin, please.
Okay, National Grid has made a petition to the Sturbridge Board of Selectmen to install 4 JO poles on Poduk Road beginning at a point approximately 1,500 feet northeast of the center line. of the intersection of Podunk Road and Highway 49, continuing approximately 5,100 feet in a north direction. Installation of new poles 22-50, 40-25, 44, and 4450. National Grid also requests permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways. The poll hearing will take place on Monday, September 16, 2024, 6:35 p.m., Sturbridge Town Hall, second floor, Veterans Memorial Hall, at 308 Main Street in Sturbridge.
All right, do we have anybody from National Grid? Come on down. Thank you. Can you just please identify yourself for the record?
My name's Robert Williams. I work in the design department for National Grid.
All right, Robert. So we are on the project that begins with 4 JO poles at 1,500 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Podunk Road and Highway 49, and continuing approximately 5,100 feet in a north direction. Installation of new poles 2250, 4025, and 44 and 4050. So where are those and what's going on?
So I was told that there's been a couple hearings for this. So just recently, the most recent update was they added in some mid-span poles to the design to shorten up the spans between the poles, and that it's a reconductoring project for
I'm sorry, I didn't
solar.
hear that part.
Yeah, we're having a
It's
little
a
hard time hearing.
project for solar generation. It's they're reconductoring for the low generation. So yeah, they added some mid-span poles to shorten up the span in the design between the poles.
I believe these are in front of conservation still. I don't think they've been voted on at this point. I know all of these have been coming forward here for initial public hearing, but the board has typically just waited until we've done anything pending conservation.
Okay.
So hold on, we getting it first? Do we usually get it first? Doesn't it usually go the other way around, or not?
This one's been, it was adjourned pending conservation.
Oh, this is the same one?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got mixed up.
And then we
Okay,
didn't have a meeting on
thank
the
you.
18th, so we had to republish it, but there were some approved on Podunk, but I don't know the addresses yet, so.
Okay, I remember now. I didn't know if these were 4 different ones, but we adjourned, they went to
This was-
conservation,
yes.
and now we're back again.
Right.
Okay. And so were these particular poles at these locations approved by the Concom? Lauren?
We got
you
Lauren
wanna
here.
answer? I didn't see you there.
Lauren, maybe a conservation agent. I have not confirmed the poll numbers, how they relate with what the conservation approval was this past week. Conservation did approve placement of 19 poles and the installation of 9 new poles. I can look and double check to verify these. My plan that I have spans 32 pages, so I'll have to cross check and make sure that the same numbers are the same. I'm assuming they are, but I don't want to give you bad information.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Lauren. Well, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the public want to speak on this?
We have stayed in touch with the public as far as the poles and the tree removals. Planning and the tree warden are in the process right now of documenting all of the trees in question, which are on town property, which are on the scenic route of town, and which are on private property, and how to deal with the replanting requirements. So it's been a joint effort with National Grid's forestry group, as well as our tree warden and planning on that front in conservation.
Yep, through the chair, may I ask?
Of course, ma'am.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Now, I recall from the last one, which was held, I think, in the middle of the summer, whatever, there was a gentleman here who was very concerned about a certain tree that was like right in front of his house. And you were going to talk with him, and the tree warden was going to try to save that tree, and I don't see the gentleman here tonight. What was the end result of that?
I don't know what the end result was on that particular tree, but they were going through with everybody that had, Jean and the tree warden had been meeting out there with pretty much everybody. So it's, the trees aren't coming down, I mean, the pole approvals themselves aren't going to mean necessarily that all the trees that are marked are coming down. That's sort of a ongoing simultaneous process. The trees sort of have a different layer of protection through planting, at least the ones that are owned by the town. And we're trying to work with the private trees, though it's not really our role, but as part of an effort with the project, we are definitely trying to work with those private tree owners. In many cases, Grid was able to say they would only cut maybe one lead off a tree as opposed to a whole tree. And that's kind of where it was going. I don't know where the status of that last one particular tree was.
I don't know, I just feel like because he's not here, I guess maybe we can
Yeah, they usually let me know.
conclude that he's
Yeah.
happy with the outcome, all right?
And if not, there's nothing in the approval of the poles that is the approval of that tree coming down. They're still somewhat mutually exclusive, because we can still,
Well, yes and no,
Yeah, I don't know
because,
about that, Robin.
yeah, I don't,
well,
because
if
these
that
are,
one
the-
particular tree was there, yeah.
well, no, but I do think they're not like mutually exclusive, because these are specific locations which would require certain trees to come down if we approve these locations.
But-
right?
but
So, I mean, like,
all
if-
those trees are, well, I don't know, because they're still under discussion. The trees are being looked at separately through planning with Tony.
Well, so let's step back. So there's a few different approaches here. The first is, we have this before us, because on Podok Road, under our scenic bylaw, it's a scenic road, I believe. Mary's point, if we identify a site-specific, the way that these are read is that you can do attendant work to install them, cut what need be cut, because you're getting permission from the town to install it. And then there's the planning process and the tree warden process. And the planning process, I'm not sure where that is right now, but so I guess so that's sort of for the lay of the land for everybody. So these are additional poles that are midpoint poles, is that what you stated?
Yeah, called like mid-span poles.
Okay, and what's a midspan pole?
It's
Yeah,
really
that's right.
nothing different than just putting a pole in the street. We call it a mid-span because we're putting them within established pole line to shorten the distance between the poles. So the numbering usually ends up, it's mostly just a numbering thing. It's just assumed.
Do you know how many trees are planned to be taken down attendant to these specific poles?
No, I don't have that information.
see, I'm
wanna
not,
do
I know you're the messenger, but when we had this last meeting, so I just want this to go on the record, and maybe
Yeah.
Robin can follow through with National Grid. We asked for certain questions, and our chair is asking the same question based upon my own personal recollection that he asked in the summer when we had the other meeting. And those answers were supposed to come forward for this meeting. And we also requested, although I know it wasn't assured, that we would have the same representative present because there would be some continuity. And he said that's over time, it might not be him, and I know you're a new person.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's
but
like a policy.
I get it, but I mean, these were questions we asked the first time, like how many trees are involved? Because
We did ask for a photograph, too.
we are
of the-
approving these specific locations where these poles are. So it's very much tied to, because what can happen is, if we approve these, then they can just go out and say, well, the Board of Selectmen already voted to approve the pole in this location, therefore this tree's coming down. So they do go hand in hand. They're not separate, because we're approving a certain location, and they're gonna have to do whatever they need to do to put the pole in that location.
Yeah, and just for the crowd, it wasn't as if we were discussing scrub pines. The particular tree in question was old hardwood, and it was understandable that somebody that would be concerned that
Nice
that was
tree.
yeah. It's not something you can unless you put 150 years into it. You're getting back.
To be honest,
Maybe a little
I
strong.
almost am, I know it's a chicken and an egg argument. It almost feels like none of the poll hearings really should happen until the tree warden and planning get through with their part of the process.
Yeah, I
Because
think
it just
that's right.
doesn't make sense to keep having National Grid come back.
And also, I guess that Conservation did approve a number of poles.
Yes.
But we have to know, were these 4 poles part of it?
The last
I guess we
couple-
do have to know that.
Last couple hearings we have that you approved pending conservation and the residents, I still have them sitting, and I sent an email to get all the addresses that conservation approved, and then I was gonna send an email out to let you guys know what addresses and but
So it's sort of an
the other
ongoing,
ones are still just
yeah.
sitting there.
So the other ones haven't even, you had done those even pending, those haven't even formally approved. So, I mean, just for the sake of expediency, it just seems crazy to keep putting grid poles in front of us unless we really know
No, all the
all the information, because you're just gonna kick it back, and these guys are just gonna have to keep.
Well, and also it's a public hearing, and part of the public, and again, this isn't killing the messenger, because we know it's not you. It's a process, it's, so, you know, when you, and again, when I say you, I don't mean you, but when National Grid comes before us requesting us to give an easement effectively and allow them to do work attendant to it, including underground work, especially when it's been articulated that this is for a project in a different town, we just need to know what's actually going to happen. And I don't even know if it's all that comprehensive what we're looking for. We just want to know site spec, what's going to be cut. What are we approving, I guess, is what.
Cool. It sounds like you guys have been in touch with somebody from National Grid about the tree trimming already
So
happening on
forestry's
the
actually
project?
been out there with us initially early on in the project.
Yeah.
Because every tree is marked right now.
Right.
Now, I guess the question is, with these 4 additional poles, are more trees going to get marked?
Okay.
Which we don't know.
All right.
Because I think when I went out, it was before these 4 probably were on the list. I'm assuming if they're in front of conservation, the ones that get approved by conservation must be the ones that are within the zone, right, Lauren? If they're being approved by conservation, they would only be the poles that are in your jurisdiction. So those are probably fine. I would imagine you've looked at all the trees and whatnot. The question is the ones that don't fall under conservation.
Of the total number, I believe it's just over 6. 12 of them were within conservation's jurisdiction.
So we have about 200 then that are sort of outliers.
So when we say poll 2250, 4025, we identify them this way, are they identified the same way in your notes? Is it easy, not easy, but is it doable for you to pull up your records and check and see if these 4 polls have already been approved or not?
It should be, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because usually within the lengthy application, the initial application that we receive, all the polls are identified, including the new polls that are being numbered.
And not to put you on the spot, but you can't do it like in 5 minutes, right? While we're
I
still-
could, I would.
Okay, so,
I started to look at it before the meeting, and it was just
Okay, so you-
overwhelming with everything else, and I didn't
can't-
want to
Well,
rush
you
it.
could vote pending, that's, if you wanted, or you could wait and we get the whole thing as
But
one.
we're kind of outside of that. This isn't, the problem we have here is not, odds are, this is just going to be approved. But the request is, that's not the problem, right? It's what are we approving? And it's not like we haven't had community concerns about it. It's not, we're not just making this up. People
Oh, yeah.
pretty impassioned and upset about, what they perceived happening to their roads. So we just need to know what's actually going to happen. Where's the
Well,
rubber meet the
no,
road?
I agree. I think we just need to get every bit of information before we make our decision. I mean, this has been going on, since the 4th meeting or something. We need to hear from planning. We need to hear from the tree warden. We need to hear from conservation. And then we can make our decision.
And I think it sounds like we're probably close on conservation. We've probably still got a little bit of time because the tree warden was literally categorizing each of those trees as okay to come down because it was dying anyway, not okay to come down because we really don't want to lose this tree. And then the other caveat in all of that is the agreed upon replanting plan. So that's a whole nother aspect to this. So I mean, I guess, is the best bet to continue this out as long as you can continue it out for a little a little while longer and try to get a better handle on where planning is, because they have to categorize all of these trees. I mean, this is not and they're literally looking at each one.
right. But again, I mean, so what our chair asked is with these 4 polls, how many trees are coming down? we're gonna ask that, we want an answer to that. Because like this project is primarily benefiting National Grid in Charlton, because you want to tie into the solar. It's not, so we're taking a very, beautiful and kind of rural road, and a bunch of our trees are coming down. So, there's not that much. I know it's going to improve reception and all that, but like with these four, we kept asking, the reason you're adding these is because the distance between the poles are exceeding what you normally like to see.
Well,
Is what your other
it's an
representative
engineering
said.
thing, because the wires are getting heavier, and it's,
Right.
it's not like we like to see it like that. There's a
Well, he said there
specific,
was there's a certain distance, and these exceeded that distance.
But the
is way he
gauge,
explained it.
basically, the gauge of everything's heavier.
So it
It's
has to
all-
be
It's
more.
all just heavier.
yeah, it's like
and
an
more,
actual
yeah.
engineering.
No, and that part of it all makes sense, and it's sort of, there is stability that comes with it, but I guess, we just keep having, this is, like Mary said, this is the third or fourth time we've had this exact conversation.
I also will say our regular National Grid rep had been out for a couple months. He is back, and had a meeting here the other day with us just to get back on track with everything, and we did put this back on his radar last Thursday or Wednesday? Yeah, he was here, and so he is back on the radar on this, and I think, because he's familiar with the town, I think we'll have more rapid answers. There was just, the woman who stepped in was wonderful, but again, stepping into a situation was not easy. So, Buba's back, and he's very on top of things with town, and very communicative, so.
Because it would be good if
Yeah.
we voted after everything's approved.
It just makes sense for the whole tree thing to be resolved, or at least as close to resolved as possible. The private trees are gonna be harder, but at least our own public trees we should have resolved.
Right.
Okay, well, I think.
Can they go forward with this project if the private owners, if we can't reach an agreement with them?
Well,
We are trying, on some of the trees on private property, there has already been agreement reached.
Okay,
So Grid's forestry people actually were very good in coming out and trying to work with people and say, look, if we cut this tree, if we cut just the lead, we're probably gonna kill the tree, but the tree might not die for 15 years. And the owner says, well, you know what, that's fine, I'll take my chances on 15 years rather than lose the whole tree now. So there's been a lot of that kind of discussion going on, and the forestry team from Grid actually was very good in going out there. And I think that's what's pretty much gonna happen with the private trees, they're gonna be one-on-one. The other thing we are looking at is, if they clear a strip, let's say there's a portion of that road that, the other side of Podunk, that 49, the back of their houses faces out to 49, with this being the only buffer in between. And a whole bunch of that tree line is scheduled to come down. They're not nice trees, if you will. It's not a loss of beautiful trees. But these people are concerned, a couple homes are concerned about the buffer and the sound buffer. So what we wanted to propose was, could we have the replanting, because we don't necessarily need it on town property, could we replant back further into that private property, even though it's town trees coming down, to recreate their buffer on their property if they were willing? And according to the regulations, replanting can't happen on private. So now we're looking at sort of creative ways to have the developer be able to do that without it being an official replanting, and having that sort of count somewhere else. So we're looking at creative ways to get this done, but we also have, everybody wants different things. So one person says, oh, absolutely not, I don't want more trees on my property, I don't care if they cut that portion. Another neighbor says, no, I want my buffer, I want them planted. So we're really trying to go individual to individual, which is not making this go any faster, but it's important.
Is there any exigent circumstance for doing this right now? Is there any reason this can't be done next month or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
okay, so,
I think,
The sooner the better, I would say. That's normally the regular case.
Yeah.
well, on any project there is, but it's not a dire, immediate project.
yeah,
It's not going anywhere next month because of the trees, if nothing
Right.
else.
Right.
And a couple on conservation still, yeah.
So
I think we're just tabling it.
I would, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing to when, Michelle?
Well,
Till hell freezes.
we gotta continue it until,
You can always
Goes to
continue
co-
it to a date, and then just
Yeah,
literally
do it
open the
again.
public
Open
hearing and close.
close it, and continue again.
all right.
That's what we have to do, we have to continue it.
you guys have questions on the trees around the new poles, right? That you're currently in discussions with National Grid's tree arborist?
On the whole project as a
Yeah.
whole. Now, I don't know when these poles got added to the project, but we were out there in May and again, I think in June or July.
Okay, so for the next meeting, you're just hoping to have an answer from either National Grid's tree arborist or your conservation,
Ultimately,
About-
our conservation,
or
our
just have
tree
them
warden-
be in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at the tree warden on, we may have to go through pole by pole and say, yes, yes, yes to this pole, we're still holding on these poles, because some of them may be perfectly fine. You know, it may be that these 4 happen to be perfectly fine. So it's really a matter of several, depending on the pole, who we're gonna be waiting to hear from.
I think the basic thrust of it is we are looking for exhaustion of our municipal processes and a statement of what the particular scope of work is with a, you know, I don't think we're looking for, stick by stick, but I think we need a statement of what is the attendant work that will be performed at a survey level, but certainly more than what we've been getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, and the board's asked before, and we've mentioned in the past, trying to get an actual aerial, like a really easy to look at photograph, because really the engineering plans are not easy to navigate through if you're not an engineer. And so if there is a picture of this and let's say some rendering of the trees near that pole that would be scheduled to go. But in the end, it's all gonna be reviewed by planning and the tree warden anyway, before it gets to you is really what it should be.
So that's what we're saying. We want it to go, as our chair said, through conservation and planning, and make sure whatever trees are impacted by these specific additional poles, that it already went through conservation and they approved it, okay? And rather than coming here. So this is what we asked for last time too, like what trees, and we also asked, and they weren't, your other colleague wasn't able to answer it, is, I know you said you want them a certain distance, because now it's heavier, so you can't have them as far apart.
Yeah.
Right. How many more poles are going to fall under that policy, if you will? Like, now we have 4. Are there other areas on that road where the poles are too far apart and you're gonna be coming forward with 4 new poles, or is this it?
Well, we have some others still that are on contingent to vote, so we need a, listen, I agree with you, Mayor, we need a better statement of where the midway polls and what polls are happening, and that some of that's probably can be done on our end as well.
These are new, like, do we have more new ones coming in?
No, as far as I know, this is what they're petitioning. Normally, when we come forward with a petition, we place out all the new poles to be approved in one petition. We don't petition a portion and then come back and petition another portion for the same job.
So these are the only ones whose poles are too far apart from each other to accommodate the
Yeah, as far as I
lines?
know. Unfortunately, I didn't design this job. It was
No, I
sent
get
out to a contractor, and they went through the whole thing, so.
No, we
and I
realize we're
also-
blasting you and you.
Yeah, and I also got involved on this job later on to pick up from my other colleague who's been out here, so, but, yeah, normally the process is we come forward to a petition hearing with all the polls marked out for that job that are new coming in the public way.
Great, all right, okay.
And I was gonna say, prior, I don't know about these 4, all the other polls that had been discussed before, we'd already sort of weeded out the concerns about pole locations. We'd
Right.
already talked to Grid about shifting one this way 5 feet, shifting another one that way by 5 feet. I'm not sure that these 4 have also been vetted for that.
Well, and that's what we're gonna
So,
find out.
we'll-
So, all right, with that, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All those, what's
Well,
that?
you gotta have a date to continue to.
What's the date we're gonna?
Want to do 11/4? Give it 2 months. It's gonna be
Yeah,
a long
and it
time.
takes a while.
I don't
It
wanna
takes a
just
while.
keep,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
'cause
I think
it's-
11/4 is the right thing. All right, Mary's gonna make a motion to move it to 11/4. Mary Lou seconds it. All those in favor? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we have to call.
11/4, right?
What's that?
You said 11/4?
11/4, yes. We have to call the second one still and do the same thing.
Yeah.
National Grid has made a petition to the Sturbridge Board of Selectmen to install 1 JO pole on Holland Road, beginning at a point approximately 1279 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Old Sturbridge Road and Holland Road. National Grid will be installing P62-84 in public way for guying of OH wires running into customer property for new residential service in Sturbridge. National Grid also requests permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways. The poll hearing will take place on Monday, September 16, 6:35 p.m., Sturbridge Town Hall, second floor, Veterans Memorial Hall, 308 Main Street, Sturbridge.
Okay, so this is, again, a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to say anything? I assume not. Do we have a motion for a previous discussion to continue? All right, I will make a.
Wait a minute, to continue?
To 11:4, yeah. Isn't the motion continued?
Well, this is kind of, it's a separate one.
Okay, you want to have an explanation about this? So what's going on with this one?
This is a new residential home that's being built, and the customer needs a pole line, 2 poles into their property, and in order to get in to guide attentions going into their property off the existing pole line, there's a what we call a stub pole is needed. Pole 62-84 is where we use that pole on the other side of the road, and then we guide that pole, and then that counters the tension going into the property.
It's not as
Yeah, no,
complicated as
I
that.
merged it all into
same
Podunk and then look at Holland.
No.
All right. Very different part of town. All right, so again, so this is a jail pole on Holland Road. It is a separate issue. Does anybody have anything from the public? Oh, come on down.
I'm the resident.
Oh, come on in.
I was going to ask if the residents here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So just come up to the mic and just state your address.
All right, this is for 279 Holland Road. So there's an existing pole that the new service is coming off of to go onto my property. There's going to be 2 poles on my property. Neither of those are this pole. This pole is on the opposite side of the road to support the pole that we're pulling off of. There are no trees in the way, thankfully. And that pole in itself, the existing pole there that we're going to be pulling off of, is leaning away from the road. So I think there's a vested interest in guying that pole in the first place. But yeah, that is the plan there.
Great, thank you. Comments from the board?
I don't have any problem with
I don't
this
think
one.
anybody does either.
problem?
Well, apparently I thought I did, and then I didn't.
Well, you just have to look at the road, that's all.
You're in the wrong part of town.
Before I was against it, that's okay.
All right, anything else from the public on this? All right, hearing nothing. Any comments from the board? Do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the petition for the 1 JO pole on Holland Road, beginning at the point approximately 1,279 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Old Sturbridge Road and Holland Road. National Grid will be installing P62-84 in public way for guying of OH wires running into customer property for a new residential service in Sturbridge. National Grid also requests permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersection public ways. The poll hearing will take place on Monday, September 16th, 2024 at 6:35 at the Sturbridge Town Hall, second floor, Veterans Memorial Hall, located at 308 Main Street, Sturbridge.
Okay,
Second.
great. All those in favor? The ayes have it. All right, thank you
Okay,
so
that's
much.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So we are on to department reports. Thank you so much.
Do you have to close the hearing, or is the vote the closed?
No, the
No,
vote
closes
closes
it, the
it.
vote closes it.
Meeting in executive session.
Yep, yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, building.
Oh,
How's it going?
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Good, good.
You settling in?
Yeah, settled in. It came on full-time July 1st. It's been going very good. You guys have our report.
Yes.
We included June, which was when the previous building commissioner was still here, but I don't believe you guys received that report, so we added it. It's my first time reporting to you guys, so I'm not sure what you want to hear and what you don't.
I mean,
Well, just what's going on.
yeah, not too much more complicated than that.
Yeah. So I'll go through the ongoing commercial projects. The senior center is at drywall stage. They're on schedule, and they're looking to open January. He was talking about moving furniture in beginning of January to get that open. The movie theater, 100 Charlton Road, they've started remodeling. Their goal is to open by Thanksgiving. 150 Charlton Road has been an ongoing project. They've been on hold for almost a year now. I was told, awaiting DOT permits. 505 Main Street, it's an 8-unit apartment building. They're in their roughing stage. I'm scheduled to go out there Wednesday for a frame inspection. 277 Main, the public house. They've been doing some roof replacements and interior beam restoration. They had a lot of beams in there that were cracked, stress cracked and stuff, and an engineer submitted a report for repairs, which were performed. And they did the roof over the kitchen area. They ran into some substantial rot, which they're coming forward to do some window replacement and siding, so that's gonna be incorporated in that. They did a temporary repair for now, but as you can imagine with the age of the buildings, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Upcoming commercial projects, the only thing we really had was the Blackington building on Main Street. They're proposing a canopy on the front of the building and a accessible lift and handicap accessible bathrooms on the second floor. I skipped over done commercial projects. There's been none since I've been here since July 1st. Zoning enforcement, along with the fire department, I've been working with Lieutenant Ash. 392 Main, we were able to remove 2 illegal apartments that were in very dangerous conditions, no smoke detectors, no means of egress out of one, no second means of egress. It was just a really bad situation. I guess it was an ongoing issue for a couple of years now. We were able to clear everybody out of there and have everything removed. 531 Main, we stumbled across the construction of an illegal apartment, and they're in the permit correction process at this time to bring everything up to code in that building. There's a antique shop, I guess, up above, and they had no fire protection, no smoke detectors, no nothing. So we're working with the new owners on correcting all that. They just purchased the building recently, so. 453 Main, I'm working with a contractor. He's working on some architectural drawings to replace the fire escape in the back of the building. It's a mixed-use building with retail on the bottom and apartments up above, and the second means of egress was, it's pretty close to being collapsed. So he's working on getting that corrected. New and closed businesses, 538 Main Street, the Stonewall Grill was closed. 139 Main Street, the Mama Italia relocated to Woodstock, Connecticut, and the fish store closed. there's a new restaurant proposed to take up both of the spaces in there. They'll be doing lunch and dinner with a full bar.
Those two, can I, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes, ma'am.
The fish store and the Mama Italia weren't right next to each other, were they?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, they were?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're gonna.
I'm thinking of a different fish place. I'm sorry, on the court. I was
Yes, it
like,
was like a fish store, they sold
I was
fish.
thinking of a different fish market and the.
They meet at the corner.
Yeah,
Okay.
the building kind of comes together at an angle. He's gonna remove the interior wall, so it's one open space. Since I've been here, working with Cindy, we've been able to close out approximately 40 old lingering permits that we had. Yeah, that's that. That's about it. Any questions?
Okay, this isn't your purview, but these two new restaurants that intend on opening, they have to apply for liquor license. And we don't meet that often, so they better
Yeah, Michelle will reach out and
get on
remind
the
them
ball.
of victualling license, liquor license, all that stuff.
And on that same note, I had a question about the movie theater. Is it correct that they're gonna try to serve food and
Yeah.
alcohol?
Yeah.
I don't know about alcohol.
Not
I know
not at this time.
Oh, not at this,
It's,
because the other locations, when you Google it, are,
yeah, originally that was their plan.
Okay.
But they're looking to open as soon as possible, so they're probably gonna add that down the road.
okay, so it's not gonna be alcohol, they're not applying
No.
for any alcohol license?
For now, it's just the basic concessions that the previous theater had. They removed all the seating. The seating's gonna be probably half of what it was
Is it
previously.
gonna recline like we?
Yeah, it's gonna
Okay,
be
so
reclining
that's still
chairs.
on the table.
Yeah, they have the call buttons on them,
boys.
with a bring
Yeah.
your drinks and stuff. Drinks and food or whatever you want.
Yeah, because people are kind of excited that they're gonna have sit-down meals and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
So they're having like the popcorn.
Robin's not excited about that part.
Like popcorn and candy and that
Dark
kind of
and
thing.
dirty.
Yeah.
But they're not. I know new theaters are different.
Go someplace else
14 years,
first.
So you can't talk to me.
Spread the wealth.
There it
Such
is.
an exciting life.
All right, well,
I
that's,
do want to thank Bill and say Bill has been a welcome addition. The feedback from the public has been very good. The feedback from our staff has been very good. He's just rolled right in with the team, and so we're really happy to have him on board.
and any support you need from the board?
No, everybody's been great.
All right, I have nothing else unless you guys do.
No,
All right,
thank
thanks, Bill.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, conservation. Oh, we got all the new people in a row.
All the newbies. And I will say the same about Lauren. She has been a welcome addition, and as you know, conservation is a challenging role to step into, lots of ongoing things and always lots of new things. And so she too has received a lot of positive feedback from the people. You know, the town is very vocal with me about how they feel about people and interactions with our staff, which is great. I mean, I'm glad I do hear back, and it's been very positive to this point with Lauren as well, so.
Great. How you settling in, Lauren?
Settling in very nicely, thank you.
That's good.
All right, if you just give us a sort of high-level summary of the
Absolutely.
report. Good.
So thank you for having me. You all have a copy of my memo, so I'll kind of
Yes.
just skim over it. As you all know, I started at the end of May, so this was coming in at the end of the fiscal year. So I cannot take really any credit for anything that was done in the past year. So I am happy to report that we do have a full board of 5 members. We do currently have 2 vacancies for alternates on those boards, and it'd be great to get those positions filled. Our office is staffed with a full-time agent, myself, and then Erin, who's part-time, but works part-time, I think, under the town categories, but still puts in a sufficient amount of hours. It's a great help since she's been moved up to the assistant agent, which I believe was in 2023. We meet every 3 weeks. Meetings are still being held hybrid. We have connection issues from here and there, so we always do encourage people to attend in person when possible, especially those that are trying to present a project, so that way we don't have to continue these. We do take our 6-week break in the summer, so that way we don't run into any quorum issues, and so far it's been very successful, and all of our applicants have been very willing to work with that schedule. We're currently working on our schedule for 2025, so we hope to have that out within the next month or so. Over the last year, we issued a total of 135 permits. 45 of those required public hearings. For the most part, public hearing will run at least 2 meetings, part of that because the DEP numbers that are required to be issued from the state, DEP is very shorthanded, so it does take quite some time to have all the applications through the whole state reviewed and get the number in time. But we try to get those out as efficiently as possible and communicating with applicants of any needs in the meantime, so that way if there are any plan updates or anything required, that those are communicated in advance to try and keep things moving along. Some of the major projects that were accomplished over the last year was a large-scale solar array, obviously the Blueberry Hills Estates, 7 new homes, 4 of which were raise and rebuilds, and we also funded the South Pond treatment through a 319 grant. So again, brief summary of the last year, since I can't really speak on behalf of much. I asked Erin's input as well, but I don't want to step back on any of the great accomplishments that were done with Becky during her long period here. So moving forward, looking more at goals for the next upcoming year, obviously continuing to improve efficiency where we can, closing out any expired permits that have been lingering, especially some of the ones for subdivisions and whatnot. As these homes are starting to sell, we're running into more issues where permits just weren't closed out for the whole overall, so we're having to do things in pieces. So trying to come up with a more systematic approach to that. Outlining processes for design standards, enforcement actions and whatnot to try and improve overall consistency. Obviously, every project is a case-by-case basis and the circumstances are different, but doing everything we can to try and be as diligent and as consistent as possible. We are also working on updating the open space plan. So Jean has been working on that for some time now, so I'm stepping in to assist her for the time being until eventually that will transition over to conservation completely. But we are bringing back the photo contest this year, so that's an exciting thing that we will be announcing soon. I'll be providing the board with more information on that, so if you know people that are interested, for those that were around in 2018, which I think most of you were, might have been familiar with that project. So it's a great thing that gives an opportunity to recognize community and engage and get some response back for the open forum. We're also working on improving relationships with our existing stakeholders. Obviously, conservation is just an umbrella of so many other important projects, so we'll be hosting our first conservation and coffee discussion this week. It's an informal meeting, not a public meeting, which has representatives from SLAC, Open Space, Trails, Opacum Land Trust, just to get everyone kind of chatting about things that are going on, different projects they're working on, finding overlaps, and just kind of setting some goals for moving forward. And this is going to be a conversation that's held on a quarterly basis. Obviously, we respond to any of these various departments as needed when projects are going on, but I think that they also overlap with each other, so having that conversation will be a great asset to the town and just overall project efficiency. Another goal that I have for this year is working on baseline studies for the roughly 18,000 acres of conservation land that we have. As you know, we have quite a bit. As part of the conservation role, we are responsible for providing annual reporting for these the stewardship of all of these properties. It is a challenging task due to the limit of time. It does take quite a bit of time to survey, especially some of these larger parcels, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some assistance going forward and just tackle them piece by piece to help us work towards getting that initial baseline and then making it easier to just update regularly. So wish me luck as much as we get done in the next year. In addition to that, we're working on collecting an inventory of all our stormwater systems and BMPs that kind of tie into different infrastructure. I am working with Heather, our DPW director, on that. These are important to monitor and manage because while it might just be a basin put on a single-family home or at a commercial complex, when they tie into our town system or are next to our major infrastructure, it all has a major impact. So following up on these and making sure that they're properly maintained and observed. Again, a challenging and time-consuming task, but something that has to get done because it will be for the overall good of the community. And And in addition to that, the Conservation Commission is going to be starting a new program for Young Conservationist of the Year. We'll be releasing some information on that soon, but it's going to be recognizing a high school junior, senior that has been an outstanding member of the community and giving back, and just some ways to kind of get some more young involvement and hopefully find future commissioners down the road. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No, that's great. I don't have any.
I just had a couple, first of all, very thorough memoranda you've given
you.
us. Thank you, very thorough. Does the high school know about this?
I'm working on getting in touch using different contacts to try and get within specifically the science department and kind of trickle through, but I have some other connections as well, but I'd be happy to take any recommendations if you have any.
No, I was just
contacts.
curious, like, you're probably just in the early stages of planning, I
Yes.
assume. So they'll like apply for it, or
Yes.
how would that work?
It's
Or-
going to be an open application with a supportive letter, either from a family member or friend. Obviously, we have to consider homeschooled students as well, but
Okay.
it's not necessarily just going to be Sturbridge residents. It would be Tantascwa School District because it's kind of open to all, but since they go to school in Sturbridge, we have a kind of outline of the criteria that we'd be looking for, and the applications are going to be presented to the commission without the names to avoid any possible conflicts. And the commission will review all the applications at a next meeting, make a vote, and then we'll announce who has
It's a great idea.
the award.
No, it is.
And the Plimpton master plan, has that begun yet? Because I know the funds were approved last fiscal year. Have we
That's
gone-
something,
have we-
so I'm working with both Tom and Brandon from the Trails and
okay.
also with Robin to try and figure out where things are, where things left off, if this is something that maybe funding-wise needs to be expanded upon, and then also, of course, working with OPACOM because they're part of that area as well.
Got it. And then my last, this is just, I should know the answer to this, but I guess I don't. The South Pond was given alum treatment for, through a grant. Were our other lakes clean enough, didn't have any kind of need for treatment?
As far as the selection process as to why that location was chosen, I do not have the answer for that. Robin, I don't know if you
It was the
do.
state, wasn't it? Wasn't it the release of state funds in connection with Brookfield?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we voted on it
But
probably
I
6,
did
7
have
months
an
ago.
email from a resident today asking if there was going to be any more grant funding and could there be any more of that type of work done if needed on.
On other lakes?
So, yeah.
There are some other lakes that do have treatments. I know that Cedar has a treatment plan.
And we fund through Betterment, I think it is, the lake associations for some treatment money as well, so.
And we have it under the conservation budget, lake testing for, I want to say either lead mine or, well,
Okay.
I think it's lead.
So when we
I'd have
do
to double check.
testing, is that through the Board of Health or through conservation? When we test for, bacteria and all that? Who does, I guess, who does that
Board of Health
testing?
does, like when Cedar Street and Cedar Lake
The
gets shut
rec,
down, that's
right.
Board of Health.
Okay.
These treatments are usually done through third-party companies that specialize in lakes. Mostly they're looking at bacteria levels, dissolved oxygen levels, vegetation, invasive species. So some of the treatment plans that we have, it's not necessarily for bacteria. The treatment might be specifically for invasive species of plants that are overtaking everything, which has its own chain of effects. Some treatments have to be done
Do you check
annually.
for that in our ponds, or I guess?
I personally do not,
Good job.
Not you personally, but I just.
It tastes
wonder-
fine.
I guess it's a question.
I'll invite you for the next one.
When I looked and I said, oh, South Pond got a grant.
That was-
And
yeah,
so-
that was-
So there's
So
an
my,
initial testing.
antenna went up about, what about the other lakes, that's all.
Right. So typically before any treatments, it would require an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission if a pond was looking to get a treatment, and we usually typically require a baseline study, letting us know what are the primary areas what is your target that you're trying to affect,
Right.
what's the current dissolved oxygen level, the percentage of invasive plants overall. So there is a bunch of data that we do collect before making a decision to go ahead and apply chemical treatments. Most of the treatments that are used, all the chemicals are approved by the state, but it's very
So
careful
you don't take the
consideration.
initiative, the initiative's taken and then you have to approve it?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mary Lou, anything?
No, nothing.
All right, I think that's the,
Lauren, you have an amended agenda that we were going to follow up. This was going to be on the 19th originally, on the question of the docks. So back in February, I sent you all a memo with a decision or a opinion from Brian Winter indicating that the DEP is the final say on the permanent docks, and the board does not have a method to sort of take that over or from them. The board certainly can go to public hearing and express an opinion on a project. That is certainly within the purview of the board. So originally, I have a January 10th, which was in that chain I sent you in February from Becky, saying she says, I think we knew about the board not having oversight. The question was what and if what they can do to set guidelines and or have oversight. So then the Brian Winter came back and said likely you cannot. And so then with the transition, it could kind of put on hold. We know our temporary dock policy, it is not a bylaw, it's a policy, so it can be changed, but that it really had a lot of conflict with it, even within our own policy on the temporary docks. And so I thought we would just wait for someone to come into conservation and just get the big picture for all of us on the docks. And I know that the Conservation Commission still does have concerns about where the board stands on the permanent docks. And again, from what we got from Brian Winter, there's no route for the board to take it over, if you will. The conservation has the first 25 feet. The board certainly has input to make a recommendation to conservation on those 25 feet. The actual permitting of the dock portion is a DEP portion.
well, yeah, except once they pour footings on the land, that's the conservation.
On the
committee.
20, on the
So-
25
so
feet,
one-
you have,
So
yes.
here's how I think it works, and we can, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks. But there's obviously a point where we have authority over what's built over the lake, regardless of what the state says, because we have to be able to get, if someone built a bridge across the lake, which the state wouldn't allow, but if we were to say whether they weren't, we would have, the public safety apparatus has to be able to access it. That's largely what our harbor master, the principal point of a harbor master power, it is a police and safety power, right? If people are pouring footings within 25 feet of the water, conservation has the same jurisdiction they would over everything in that property, should be so reviewed. As to the temporary docks, they're temporary docks, and we keep doing what we're doing. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. But basically, I don't really think we should refine our policy, but I think it changes nothing, because I think conservation can, for its bylaw, within 25 feet, assert its normal powers, because otherwise, where's the line that they can't?
I think we should put the conservation wording in with our wording.
Temporary as well. So, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we sort of asked Lauren to look generally at the whole picture. So the DEP question is absolutely those 25 feet. Lauren and I talked about this today, that definitely is without question conservation's purview, the first 25 feet, because you are touching the soil without question. Then the question that we need to look at is, our temporary docks had totally different regulations, length into the water, width, all those things. Do we want to rewrite those to comply, though the length and all of that other stuff falls under DEP, but we can look at what DEP is doing and try to at least make them similar, and then go with conservation's recommendations for what happens at the base, though there's no footings poured, but any disruption of land to do the temporary
Well, I
would be
mean, we
conservation.
could just tack that language on.
Right.
It could just be separate, because I'm sure most people don't have a clue about
No.
the involvement of Concom.
No, on
in
the,
that,
no, no.
yeah.
I don't disagree. If it's a permanent dock, isn't that a lot more complicated in terms of what you, and I get the first 25 feet is conservation, but if we tap into the language that the DEP uses, isn't that just going to make our bylaw so much more cumbersome than what it needs? Because these are removable docks. So,
We need to really look
I'm-
at length, frontage, all those things, pretty basic.
I think Mary, I think if I understood what Mary was saying, is that and maybe it was the DEP, I was thinking it was the conservation. It seems to me that you know,
Yeah,
the
no.
temporary structure is what it is.
Yeah.
We refer to Concom's power and almost as a pass-through, so people know they go there.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's a notice
because-
issue, really.
Yeah, because no one's aware of it.
Yeah.
If you are putting
I'm
a permanent
staying-
dock, you are
Yeah,
required to.
no,
if
I'm
you're doing
staying
any
away
digging
from the state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
State-
because it's just gonna confusing and they don't, and try getting a call back.
Yeah,
We talked about that today, working with the state.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being flip,
No,
but but yeah, so that's what I understood you to
Yeah.
be saying, so I just wanted to clarify.
So some proposed
Simple.
language that says, you know, if this involves any pouring or disruption of land within
Land
25
5
feet,
feet,
and we
yeah.
work on language, it would then
yeah,
go.
just a little paragraph.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, that's.
I thought we were incorporating everything the DEP would require in
we're leaving
and then
it
I'm
out.
like, we don't need to do that.
And then what I will do is go through with Lauren, I think she's already gone through and made some recommendations on that, where there might be conflicts within that policy that we have that are a little confusing. I think we need to clean up some of the wording in that. But philosophically, this is easy enough to just do
Yeah.
the reminder.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Lauren, what you.
Absolutely, I think one step would be with the, in my opinion, with the application, before it comes to you, requiring a conservation sign-off, so that person, before they turned in their application to Michelle or to Robin, would come to our office and say, hey, I'm putting in my temporary dock. Then we would ask the necessary questions, are you making any changes to the bank? Are you doing anything to the land? If it doesn't need anything, if it's just simply taking a temporary dock and I'm just putting it on my shoreline and it's gonna run out and there's no change to the land, I just sign off, they bring their application and you do your portion of it. If it's a little bit more in-depth, like I wanna install a better landing or a patio here that my temporary dock comes off of, that's absolutely under the jurisdiction of conservation because it's within that 25 feet. Permanent structures are a little bit different.
We would
The,
treat it like a departmental sign-off on a liquor license.
right.
Has this been approved for this? Has this been approved for this? Did conservation say you're not disrupting anything, you're good to go for temporary?
Similar to what what we were experiencing earlier in the meeting with the poll hearings, if the application just has a sign off for any other department that needs to go to, you see that application, everyone's signed off on it, you know that you're good to proceed.
I actually would probably throw, not that Bill wants to hear this, I would probably even throw inspections on it, because if they're doing anything structural at the base of it, and it collapses, I would like to know that at least Bill looked and said, nope, this does not need my sign off, or yes, it
All
does.
for the temporary.
Yeah, even for the temporary, because people are doing creative things around the ends of those. Now, it's simple, but that's nothing on the applicant. It's, they don't have to go in front of Board of Commission meetings, it's unless
Unless they're
she
making
deems that
changes.
it's simply when they put their packet together, Michelle's gonna zap it into the system to Bill and Lauren as well, who are gonna say, yep, it's just a temporary, no problem, no problem. Applicant never even knows. Only time the applicant becomes aware is if it red flags and says, whoa, 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 you can't do that. Now you have a conservation problem.
And
It would be
again,
Lauren, it wouldn't
as Robin
necessarily
stated,
go.
I'm coming in at the end of this. I didn't quite understand the whole concept of what was being reviewed until we had a hearing last week that had 2 docks on it, and these were cantilever docks. So it's a little bit different because they're considered semi-permanent, has a cement counterweight that's installed, so you're altering the bank to install that counterweight, where the dock itself just kind of goes out. There's no permanent structure in the water. So
Halfway
less
in between.
impactful, it's pros and cons. A lot of the research suggests that this is less of an environmental impact on the water itself. And from my understanding, the commission's looking for a little bit of response as far as what's allowable within the disturbance of the bank, which has to comply with wetland protection standards of what you're actually allowed to modify. If the commission chooses not to grant the waiver for work within the 25-foot no disturb, that essentially kills the project. So
Okay, I just don't want to make it like
No,
overly
for the
cumbersome for residents who are putting in a
applicants, they
temporary
would-
dock.
If 9 out of 10, maybe even 99 out of 100, let's say,
Right.
are probably gonna just get a check mark from Bill, and just like a victualling license, whatever, just gets a check off. It literally would be to protect the resident who thinks they can do a little more, and then ends up after the fact having a big problem, because the neighbor calls and says, they were digging in the backyard.
Got
We're
it.
gonna say, oh, God, if
So-
we'd only known that.
So I know the Sturbridge Lakes Advisory Committee now, it comes under you, correct? Like,
correct.
okay, so are you going to get some input from them, or at least like let them know? I feel like there's like a communication breakdown, because there's so many temporary docks on the
Yes.
lakes, And
They have
they're
been
not
discussing
permitted. We don't know how to enforce it, which is a whole nother discussion. But now we're adding these layers of approvals when I'm not even sure we know what our enforcement
Well, I
mechanism
think that the
is.
distinction is that the Concom piece of it, I think that, and I think this is kind of, I think Mary said this, it's that the temporary 25-foot dock is one thing. That's a very addressable thing if someone's out of violation, and if there was a unique circumstance, we could probably address it anyways, frankly. What I think that this, and I don't, again, I agree with you, we don't want to get too overly processed, but by the same token, if people start committing wetlands violations that they can be fined on, or that their neighbors have an issue on, they don't, it's, it's better, because most people just will want to know before they do anything.
No, I get that.
So I think that part of it makes sense to me. I don't know, but I just start to get, as we get beyond that, I do think it gets a little.
Yeah. What happened is we had all these docks were going in, nobody was following this temporary procedure because nobody was applying for the annual permit for it. And what we said this year was we were gonna start making people apply for the permit, but we realized we had no process. So Michelle tried to put together a process, but then this whole issue came up of the cantilevers and what falls where. And so literally, we had already started a process of the checkoff. We'll even have, for instance, the police department look at, is there a problem? Is there an issue on that lake? Do they have issue? Whatever it is, we can figure out who needs to sign off, no different than we figured out on the licenses. But again, unless they're disturbing the wetlands, they're never gonna know that it gets checked off by Bill or Lauren because it's just a check off on an internal process. If they are gonna disturb the wetlands, better they find out ahead than have the neighbor call and us have
Right,
to
no,
undo
I
it.
get
And
that.
now they've spent money unknowingly, to your point, that you might have an issue if we put that in there as a line.
And Slack has been discussing docks. They would like to see, for the temporary docks, an increased size from what's currently there. They would like to see it allowable that there can be more than one temporary dock. So they do have a wish list essentially of what they'd like to see, including all existing docks to be grandfathered in. The challenge partially lies is we don't know what's there. So trying to develop an inventory, I think, Michelle, you had 6 applications last year, and we know there are way more than 6 temporary docks on all of these lakes. But it's who's going to be the one that's going out there and going house to house and saying, do you have a permanent dock or a temporary dock? Do you know the rules for your temporary dock? So it's not changing anything. It's just getting a handle on the policy and the process that currently exists, which for people that have never had to apply for their temporary dock, not knowing they weren't supposed to, it might be an adjustment.
And what we've talked about is the first year, everybody has to show the plans and apply. Then if you make no changes the next year, all you have to do is just simply submit for a renewal. of
Okay,
permit.
that's reasonable.
So,
'cause
because
they're not
right
gonna
now,
do
the way
every
that reads,
time.
the policy reads, you need to be re-permitted every year. Well, we're not gonna require you to submit plans every year for the same exact dock. If you're gonna make any significant changes,
Yes.
then you'd have to reapply. It's just a matter of getting a
You're
handle.
letting them weigh in, because I had
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
concern from committee members that
Yes.
there's an advisory committee for a reason,
Yes.
and this is right up their alley, so they need to be part of the conversation.
They did want to be a part of the conversation this evening.
Okay.
It just, there was a little lost in translation with when the docs was going to be back on the agenda again. But they have been discussing that in their regular meetings. So it just kind of be, if this board, as the current harbor master, would be looking to review or revise or modify their existing policy at all for what you allow, what your process is, what you don't allow, things of that nature, I think ultimately would be the most productive feedback for them to let them know what you want to do. If right now the board just kind of wants to get a handle on the policy as it is, then look to see what modifications are. If you all want to review your existing policies now, go back to the drawing board, make some changes. I think they would appreciate that communication, of just
And then we would send them
where
the
you
draft.
stand with that.
Okay.
Right. I would probably work with Lauren on a draft, send it to them before I even bring it to you, so that we could get their input.
Yep, because years ago, they did give us a draft,
Yes,
and
yeah, and we will work with that, yeah.
Question. With the temporary docks, you said that if there's no changes, then they just have to renew the application. What is to say that they're not making any changes?
Well, that's where basically the enforcement of this is, we're gonna have to literally send somebody out in a boat with a list.
I'll volunteer.
I know, I think it's a great job. You wanna do that, we'll do that together, we'll do partners on
Okay.
that. And, go out with a list. I mean, and they're gonna, are they gonna get a measuring tape out and measure if it's 22 feet or 22 and a half feet? Probably not. But they'll have a sense if you're gonna look and say, was it a 20-foot dock 4 feet wide? Yeah, it still looks at, oh, holy moly, that's 8 feet wide. So we're gonna have to figure all that out. That's why we really have to get the policy.
Right.
And then think about what we're gonna do for enforcement and get a handle on what's already out there.
Under your existing regulations, it does state that no docks will be in before April, and they all have to come out by December. And that's something I would recommend, you all discuss is, is someone gonna go out there and physically see the temporary docks, but also how will you know which ones are
Well-
temporary and which ones are permanent, and
No, it's a helpful conversation, but it goes, enforcement is always that issue. So, we'll enforce as we enforce, and we should have that conversation. But I think right now, there seems to be is it fair to say that the board generally is for status quo of the 25-foot and just noting, as Mary suggested, about, some amount of notification on conservation. And so if you can just circulate some paperwork for that, I think that makes sense. All right? So-
Beautiful, thank you. Bill?
I had just one thing on the dock thing. I was sent out to a residence, it was a new resident that had just moved in. One of his neighbors called because he put a dock in the water. So the new resident wasn't even aware of the annual permit, which is
Yeah.
another problem, so.
Yeah,
That's
it's
probably
a-
the biggest problem.
People don't know.
That's with a lot
Yeah.
of rules and regulations
He's
we
like, oh,
have.
the dock was already in. I'm like, just coming to get a
Well, I
permit.
think also because it's a policy and not a bylaw, it's easy to tell any resident, here are all our bylaws. Well, it's not, it's just a policy
Yeah.
of the board, so how do they get a copy of it if
We
they're
were
not
gonna
aware?
we were gonna send a letter, actually, to every lake address and say, please be aware if you are putting a temporary dock in, there is a permitting process, but we wanna make sure we have the permitting process
I get it,
in place.
Yeah, I think we gotta get this through step one, and then we can talk about 2 and 3. And again, a lot of this is noticed, like Mary Lou didn't know she couldn't make fireworks at her house.
That little bucket of powder she has.
Jamie?
So you didn't hear it, T.
a long-term thing to consider too would be utilizing Slack as your representatives
Yep.
from the lake. So if you do whether or not you make changes at all to your policy, utilizing Slack they have communications with all of their lake association members. Sure. So having them, whether they send out a newsletter or it's just an email chain saying, just a reminder, temporary docks need to be renewed by this day, and, taking advantage of that communication network that you have too.
That's a good idea.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Lauren.
right,
Lauren?
Appreciate your time.
Chief, come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to see you.
So we have had a wonderful summer in the fire department. Relatively busy. Our call volume is kind of on par with what it was last year, but I think I've said this more than once in my reports to you. The calls are becoming more and more complicated, and by that I mean we're not taking as many patients to Harrington Hospital anymore. We're taking more and more patients to the city because of the nature of the calls that they're using our service for. What that means is we're out of service. Those two personnel are out of service for an extended period of time. It's a period of time to respond to the call, to treat the patient, and then drive to the city, transfer the patient to the hospital, and then drive back from the city.
And the city
Generally-
being Worcester?
Worcester, yes.
St. V's or UMass?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, both. And that's taken these firefighters out of service for upwards of 2 hours, sometimes longer than that. So we're doing the best we can with the personnel that we have. Coupled with that, we do have one firefighter out on long-term injury and another vacancy due to a ongoing personnel issue. So we're as I said, we're doing the best we can with what we have, but I want the board to be aware, and Robin is aware, that this is a challenge.
And I do want to jump in quickly. I don't like to usually interrupt a report, but I do want to jump in because the chief has talked to me a little bit about looking at how we restructure the call program. And he has chatted with me a bit about, I know it's been a discussion in the past, of having EMS on-call people, so that we might, this is something the chief's brought up, that we might want to look at going forward to try to resolve this problem. So we have it restaffed, we're not having to call people, or we're not out of service. So just to put it on your radar, all that this is something that you may hear about in the next several months. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's an important issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so it's, finally, I think we get to a point where I think we might be able to make it work. And of course, it's a labor discussion that we have to have as well.
And kind of going along with this, we continue to lean on our mutual aid partner communities more and more because of the fact that we're not able to respond to calls. It's a very, very cooperative relationship that we have with our mutual aid communities, but we're at a point where we're leaning on them and calling mutual aid more than we're providing mutual aid, and that trend has flipped over the past 5 years. So again, I just want the board to be aware that the numbers are not promising the way they are. So on the other side of the house, so to speak, we continue to do our daily and monthly training, both on the EMS side and the fire side. Over the summer, we worked on ladders, water rescue, ventilation, hose streams, mostly the stuff that we can do outside during the warmer weather and not during the colder weather. We had a successful pan mast challenge again this year. I think everybody in the fire department is proud of the fact that we get to be the gateway to the beginning of that race. Having the riders go under the flag in the morning and them waving to us and high-fiving is really a huge charge. So I foresee that continuing for many years. We received a grant from FEMA, an AFG grant this year for $20,739, of which $987.58 is borne by the town. So the federal government is giving us $19,751 and change. And we're going to use that to supplement a capital appropriation from fiscal '24 for all new fire hose. And what we're going to do with the grant is buy all new appliances. The couplings, the nozzles, fittings that go on the truck. And that should carry us for a good number of years with that new equipment. The hose, thankfully, will last us several years. There's always defects and we have to replace pieces of hose annually, but for the most part, all of the hose in the fire department is brand new and we will have new appliances to go along with that. We are gearing up for our second semester of introduction to the fire service at Tantasco High School. It'll start after the Christmas break. To my knowledge, we were supposed to cap at 12 students. I think we're at least at 15 again this time, which is a great testament. There's definitely interest in the program. Of last year's students, I have been contacted by several of them asking when they can become part of the fire department, when they can become more active in the fire department. We actually have one of the students now kind of working as an intern or helping as an intern with the fire inspector. So that program has already produced a benefit to us that we were hoping to see somewhere down the road. The return came quicker than I thought it would. So excellent job by our staff and the school helping us out. So we're looking forward to that. Other than that, we're getting ready for fall. There's some town events that we're preparing for, the road races, the bonfires, And before we know it, the cold weather will be here. So we'll be ready for that. Any questions?
Are you going to do the Horribles Parade again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. On a final note, under training, I took and passed my National Registry EMT exam and became certified as a Massachusetts EMT.
Congratulations, Chief.
So,
Chief.
Yeah, we've been asking.
He's only been a
another-
medic
we're
for
never
30
in
years.
doubt.
On a final, no, we know the chief's a good student. He's a smart guy. We, contract, I will print out the version before the end of the meeting tonight. We did get the final version, and the only thing that had been left was to incorporate the MOA we had had a while back from Lieutenant Ash's position, the fire inspector's position.
yes.
When we pulled together the contract after this current MOA, we had not incorporated the old, that MOA was sitting outstanding, and I didn't want to have an outstanding MOA. So we roll that in today. We got the final language from Jim Marks. When you're doing some appointment renewals, I'm just going to run it and print it, so you'll have it for tonight. So Jim can come and sign tomorrow, and we will officially be signed.
Yeah, and from what, you know, from what I'm hearing, everybody in the firehouse is very happy with the agreement that,
They were very, very reasonable. It was really one of the best fire contract negotiations I've been through in 20 years.
It's good to know.
Really, really
We've
good.
come a long
bunch.
way in the last 5 years. That's pretty awesome.
Good job, chief. Thank you.
thank you.
Good night. God
Have a
Have a good
bless.
night.
Chief,
I will be,
I just have,
Yeah.
this, should we maybe, just through the chair, I don't know, maybe
Their
move,
appointments.
maybe move to theirs, the
Sure.
4 people that are here, so they can, it's 5 of 8, just a thought, I don't know,
No, makes sense to me.
before we do your,
Yeah,
That's
we're gonna
fine.
move to
I could be
action
here
item
anyway.
A, consideration and possible action on the appointment of Joyce Bradley to the Council on Aging for a term to expire June 29th, 2025. All right. Joyce, is she here?
Joyce, could she not be here?
I don't know, like,
Was she-
when you got to me.
Oh, she said she might not make it though, driving at night, I think, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that the one with the distance?
No, that's
No,
the.
no, that was a different one.
That's a license.
Yep, so this had come in as a recommendation, and I certainly had no issue with it.
Questions from the board?
I make a motion that we approve the appointment of Joyce Bradley to the Council on Aging for a term to expire June 29th, 2025.
second.
Great, all those in favor? The ayes have it. Consideration and possible action on the appointment of Fran O'Connell to the Sturbridge Cultural Council for a term to expire September 16th, 2025.
Ms.
Hey, Fran,
O'Connell?
you wanna-
So
Yep,
Ms.
go ahead, Robert.
O'Connell had come forward
Oh,
as
yeah.
one of the people who had been interested when we put word out. We were very pleased, and we're very pleased with the background that she offered on this, and so if you'd like to
Just
come up.
say a quick word. No,
Either
anyone
one.
works. See your preference. All right, so why do you want to be on the Sturbridge Cultural Council?
Well, I've always been interested in cultural opportunities. I was an educator for 35 years, and I've been on design review and other different committees, and I thought this was a good place I could have some input.
Great, thank you for all your service. Questions from the board?
Nope.
Do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the appointment of Fran O'Connell to the Sturbridge Cultural Council for a term to expire September 16th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor? Guys have it. Welcome aboard. Thank you for coming in. All right, consideration and possible action on the appointment of Rebecca Gendro to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire September 16th, 2026.
Well, I think you figured you all know Becky.
Yeah.
And the
if
irony
she's
of.
not here, I'm not voting.
Not voting. The irony of all this is that the position that got vacated was Lauren's position on open space, and so it sort of made sense. So I recommend consideration of Becky for the position.
Do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll
That's
make a
okay. No, I
motion
figured
that
I figured
we
it's-
approve the appointment of Rebecca Gendro to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire September 16th, 2026.
Second.
Second, great. All those in favor? Excellent. Consideration and possible action on the appointment of Hugh Brower to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire September 16th, 2025.
And Mr. Brower reached out, expressing interest in open space, sent me a very nice email, and so we bring him forward for the second open space recommendation.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Brower. Tell us a little about yourself.
Good evening. I'm an IT contractor for the federal government, and previously I had served on Conservation Commission for the town of Wales, where I was also for a time the conservation agent, and also for the Conservation Commission in the town of South Windsor, Connecticut, and also for several other federal and state agencies, including the Greater Hartford Transit District. So, and I do have some input on your dock situation, because we had to deal with it a lot at Wales, because apparently if it's a great pond, then the situation is different of how the docks are treated. So we had to deal with DEP a lot on that, but in terms of if it was a smaller private pond, then we didn't have the DEP people involved on that, so that does change
We'll
the
take
rules a
input.
little bit.
I'm happy to take input.
It gets it very complicated, and we found out that probably about 95% of our docks were actually unpermitted, so that was kind of an eye-opener. So we would kind of catch it, they would come up with an application for something else, and we'd be like, oh, do you have a dock permit? No? Okay, well, we have to talk to you about that, so. Yeah, it's, I don't envy you in that situation.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, questions from the board?
No, no.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the appointment of Hugh Brower to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire September 16th, 2025.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? Ayes have it, welcome aboard, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bauer.
Thank you.
All right, so consideration, or let me see if there's any other. Jump
You
through.
have just the liquor license?
Okay. Yeah, I think we just have liquor licenses, right? Oh, let's go through them. All right,
Yeah.
consideration and possible action on an application for a one-day liquor license for Alice Ranka, Alice's Fitness and Dance for October 18th, 2024, October 19th, 2024, January 25th, 2025, March 22nd, 2025, May 10th, 2025 for burlesque dance shows from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Best to get them all out of the way at once, right? I am going to strike the May 18th. We had put that on as a just in case. We sold out really quickly and needed to add a show. We do anticipate selling out, but not enough to add another show.
I don't even see May 18th.
May 10th.
It's written as May 10th.
October 18th, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Month.
I was like, oh, I said that, I just assumed I did something wrong.
October, yes.
All right, great. So we're with October 18th struck. Any questions?
Nope.
Do we have a motion?
We've done this before.
This is the third season.
I was like, I know we've been
Yeah.
over this before, so it must be pretty well attended.
Going very well. Every show sells out, so.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the application for a one-day liquor license for Alice Ranka / Alice's Fitness and Dance for October 19th, 2024, January 25, 2025, March 22nd, 2025, and May 10th, 2025.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Great, all those in favor?
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. All right, consideration and possible action on an application for a one-day liquor license for Gary Galanick, Pickleball U, for October 18th, 2024, October 19th, 2024, and November 30th, 2024, for a pickleball tournament from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Hi, Gary.
Gary, how are you?
Had fun sitting back there?
Oh, well, you know, I'm caught up.
I tried to.
I didn't know the
move
fish
along.
market closed. Thinking of my own dock.
Uh-oh, don't confess. What dog?
keep button the lip, Gary.
Tonight.
No, but, yeah, no, pickleball's become a very social thing, and you know, we have sponsors that sponsor our courts, but we rely very heavily on them, like Oakham and Tutti Quanti, so we're just going to take ownership. The chamber's at an event at our place, and you have to have beer and wine at a chamber event. You can't do the fun at 5 thing. So Alex said, you got the permit, right? But and then we have a couple other bigger tournaments that I just like Alice, I figured I'd try to get a few of them in one felt swoop. We are still going to rely on, you know, Rapscallion and the like to come do their thing. Paddles and Pints nights are fun, and people enjoy it. So
Great.
Paddles and pints.
yeah, that's a.
All right, any questions from the board for Gary?
No, just that this has been a really, really welcome addition. I have a lot of friends that are so excited to have, you know, a pickle, no, because not a lot of towns have indoor pickleball, and it's a way to stay in shape in the winter. You
Now, if
can
we
go
can-
from Planet Fitness over to pickleball, and you're gonna be in great shape, and then go over
Depends
to
how much beer,
Contessa.
depends how much beer.
Depends on what time you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, then you hit
Just get your
Contessa.
Cedar Street crowd to come during the day.
All right, great. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for a one-day liquor license for Gary Galanick slash Pickleball U for October 18th, 2024, October 19th, 2024, and November 30th, 2024, for a pickleball tournament from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? All right, and then we're moving on to action oh, you got one more, Gary, think, don't you? Consideration and possible action on an application for a one-day liquor license for Gary Galanick Pickleball U for October 8th, 2024, for a Fun at 5 networking event from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And I think you discussed that already.
Separate that one.
This is a chamber one.
Yeah.
Is that the 5 to 5 they have?
Fun at 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the application for a one-day liquor license for Gary Galanick slash Pickleball U for October 8th, 2024, for a Fun at 5 networking event from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? Great. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary, good job.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Gary.
Have a good night. Okay, consideration and possible action on a transient vendor application for Kelly Carlini for a bridal show on September 22nd, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Sturbridge Host Hotel.
She could not make it. She babysits, and
Yeah.
she's an hour away, but she did do a show a while back on, or for baby show, I believe it was.
Now, the host has a liquor license, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because isn't there something about,
This is transient vendor.
Transient
This is a
vendor.
vendor.
no, I know
Oh, yeah, yeah.
vendor, but it's still a liquor license
So
in
you
it.
still have to have the
Two
certification.
liquor licenses in the same place. That's okay, we've done it before, so.
I don't know why, is this a liquor license, just a transient vendor, just to sell?
Yeah.
My eyes,
That's
thank you,
okay,
Mary.
yeah, that's okay.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
I almost stonewalled a pole, I didn't mean to, so.
I know, the poor guy's sitting here saying,
I
this
made
is
almost
my
get a
house.
heart attack. Yeah, my eyes starts, no, all right.
Oh,
so-
my God.
So, all right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transient vendor application for Kelly Carlini for a bridal show on September 22nd, 2024, from 12 to 3 p.m. at the Sturbridge Host Hotel.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Great, all those in favor? The ayes have it. Consideration and possible action on a special use application for the Riverlands from Opakam Land Trust for Fall Family Scavenger Hunt Walk on October 19th, 2024, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. All right,
No problem.
so do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve a special use license for the Riverlands from Opakam Land Trust for a Fall Family Scavenger Hunt Walk on October 19th, 2024, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? The ayes have it.
So that's awesome, it's Opakam that is hosting the scavenger hunt?
Yeah. She couldn't make it, her daughter.
I like that we're having activities on our trails like that, but,
It's good stuff.
yeah.
Consideration and possible action on the reappointment of Lynn Peterson to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire June 18, 2027. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All right, do we have,
Second.
all those in favor? Great. Consideration and possible action on the reappointment of Carol Goodwin to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Yeah, we like her.
Do we have conversation or a motion?
We like her.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Great. Consideration and possible action to add an additional resident and large member to the Special Events Committee.
So this came about because we had somebody who was the representative from the Cultural Council, who's been a very active member of the committee. She no longer is on the Cultural Council, but we would very much like to keep her on special events. The original composition of this included a member of the Cultural Council, and I still felt that that was important. In the past, when we didn't have representation from the Recreation, we felt that we could sort of remove the Recreation position since there wasn't an interest from that group to continue to have someone. I emailed the Cultural Council. They did have someone who did wish to stay on, and we didn't want to eliminate them because they did have an interest. So we now have a new member from the Cultural Council, which you don't technically appoint. He's the liaison from the Cultural Council, but we are asking, and I know it's an even number, and we typically try to avoid an even number, but in this particular case, because we don't want to lose that particular person because of her input on the committee, I'd like to get a resident at-large position, a voting member, but an extra resident position. And then I've made a recommendation of who that would be, which is the continuation of that person, and then have the Cultural Council appointment, if that all makes any sense.
Yeah, so I'm the appointee from from the Select Board, and the members were in favor of, we liked it that it was 5, but we're in favor of expanding it. This isn't the kind of committee that we're really making the type of votes where you're gonna have kind of a split.
Sure.
No, yeah.
It's kind of more cooperative. It's not voting on policy where we need 5 people on the Select Board.
Right.
And kind of the more hands on deck, the better if we're trying to put on an event. And Carrie has been very active, and she's very knowledgeable with IT. So we don't really want to lose that, because I'm not.
Okay, so.
Very good.
Make the motion, Mary.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we add an additional resident at large to the Special Events Committee.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? Are you here for something specific still, or are you just hanging?
I'm just,
Okay.
never know what's gonna happen.
Wow.
Such a smart, I told you, she's a smart
You've
woman.
lasted longer than any other department head, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, she's a brief soul.
All right, so consideration and possible act, we already did that. Moving on to action item M, consideration and possible action on the appointment of Carrie to the Special Events Committee for a term to expire September 16th, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Or, all right. Consideration and possible action to accept a donation to the Sturbridge Fire Department of a Frigidaire mini fridge and T-shirts from Yankee Spirits. Do the T-shirts say Yankee Spirits? That's my first question.
I imagine they would.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we're not going to give it to school children, so.
I mean, they're grown men
They're grown
and
men,
women.
okay, it's fine with me, I guess.
I mean, the fence
The
is,
Tantasco School District.
the fence is for Little League and them all
Oh,
out.
no, I would just,
All being facetious,
Just
I
being
know.
flip again.
I mean, obviously, I'm very moralistic.
Okay,
about
I'll
these
make a motion that the board accept the donation
Fridge.
to the Sturbridge Fire Department of a Frigidaire mini fridge and T-shirts from Yankee Spirits.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? Great, the ayes have it. Action item O, consideration and possible action to allocate $250,000 for electrical upgrades on the town commons, including design, wiring, new lamp posts, infrastructure, and the like.
So I apologize for any confusion. Those 4 items are all ARPA, so those all went through the ARPA committee.
And it's ARPA funding for people watching. It's
Yes.
not coming from free
No,
cash.
there's absolutely
Okay,
nothing that
'cause
comes, yes.
That was my
I got all
question,
sorts
like,
of questions.
where's,
We usually list them as ARPA,
Yeah.
and this time we did not.
where's the money coming
Yeah,
from?
so this is all ARPA money, this is all the federal money. We are required to have this under contract. It doesn't have to all be spent by December 31st, but
But
all of
it's
the work
gotta be-
must be contracted, so we are kind of hustling. I met a week ago out on the Commons with an electrical engineer. We're working with PAR Company, PAR Engineering, to do the design work with this engineer and to handle all the bidding. We would have to be under contract with something for the board to sign by the first or second meeting of December, hopefully before that. Roughly, it likely will be less than 250, but I don't want to short it and come up short when the bids come in, because I just don't have the luxury of time to come back and forth, go back out to bid and all that. So we're looking for up to 250,000. This will include all of the conduit, the site work involved in digging up the conduit and reburying, any new panel work that needs to be done, all of the lights, new posts, which we talked about the design. We will put the design in front of the board Historic will have a look at the design, so everybody will look at the planning. We'll have a whole group of people looking at the design of the lights. They will be a traditional light, similar in concept to what is there. Also, the walkway to the library is considered part of the commons up here, this strip, so we're having him include that as well. So it's a pretty involved project. All of the lighting under the gazebo, put dimmers on it and whatnot, that all needs to be upgraded. There are some are LED, some aren't, they're different brightness, they're terrible.
yeah.
So I'm really actually very excited about this. I think it's a project the whole community benefits from.
I agree.
All right, do we have a motion?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve up to $250,000 for electrical upgrades on the town commons, including design, wiring, new lamp posts, infrastructure, etc. Funds to come from ARPA.
Second.
Great, all those in favor? The ayes have it. All right, consideration and possible action to allocate $24,605 for roof replacement at pavilions at 60 Cedar Street.
So as you know, we're doing the ADA project, that's well underway. The, sort of the last remaining thing there, both pavilions, Annie came to us, both roofs are in really bad shape, one to the point that the drywall is beginning, the plywood's beginning to get wet and rot. Relatively short money out of the ARPA, again, out of the ARPA funds, to shore up those pavilions. Those get a tremendous amount of use by, again, by the public.
Any questions
Okay.
from the board?
I'll make a motion then to allocate $24,605 for roof replacement at the pavilions at Cedar Street, at 60 Cedar Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Action item Q, consideration and possible action to allocate an additional $25,000 for roadway beautification.
So there had been funding for this through ARPA. Mary, in fact, had been very supportive of doing this. We only have spent a small amount of this toward the sign, but we also had some left, and Mary asked that we could consider, and ARPA supported adding some more. This would be toward looking at those circles at the triangle at 131 and 20. We also will look at seeing if DOT will let us work with the area in front of the state police. That whole strip there just looks horrible. In fact, I drove it again today just to take
See
another
how
look.
bad it was.
See how bad it really is awful. So I reached out already to, under the hopes that this would pass, because we have some money already. I think the total now that will be left with this 25 is what, about 65 or 70,000, Mary, left, I think, to work with. I reached out to Joe Cohn. I told him the situation. We can't contract ahead unless we have a plan or a design. He said he does our design work. We don't have a procurement issue with this because it's horizontal type engineering. He can do some major design work. He knows the players at DOT and will help try to shepherd this through so we can get something really allocating and using as much of that money as we possibly can toward that strip, at least from, DOT may or may not let us do too much because they still are in works on that design for a roundabout, but at minimum, whatever they will let us do, we will do our best to clean up that strip from the 8490 on-ramp.
Add some vegetation, landscaping is
Yes,
what we're hoping for.
landscaping, major long-term design work, so.
Questions from the board?
Okay, I'll make a motion then to allocate an additional $25,000 for roadway beautification funds to come from ARPA.
Second.
All those in favor? You guys have it. Lastly, consideration and possible action to allocate $20,000 for gift card purchases for those in need from Shaw's, Stop and Shop, Walmart, and Job Lot in $50 increments.
And I also have a request that's probably gonna come back to you. I spoke with Leslie. She said the other area we might look at is Cumberland Farms for gasoline, because people can use it for gasoline as well as anything else. The spirit behind this is we can buy the cards now. We don't have to give them, the money is spent. It can be 2030 and we can still be giving these cards away. So while we have the money, this is for people in need. It will be administered through my office. This is not a senior center project. We are not going to require proof W-2s, anything else. The spirit of this is somebody who might be making a fair income, hits a hard time, needs to come in. The only requirement we're gonna put, so there's somewhat of an honor system on this, but the requirement will be a Sturbridge resident for at least 6 months. You have to show some proof of residency. And it can be a room, it can be a room within a home, but you have to be some form of residency. Likely $50 increments. Again, it'll be somewhat on the honor system, but we didn't want to preclude somebody who might have a household making $75,000 a year who has
Medical expenses.
medical
and they
expenses,
need
or their oil
$50 at
furnace
Walmart
goes and
Christmas.
they can't buy groceries that month, and, or it's back to school and they don't. So even people who fall into a middle class that don't fall into one of those categories can hit hard times. And so this is an effort to use some of that ARPA funding for people who've hit some hard times, because originally that's really what that was sort of about anyway.
Right.
We will likely come back, I think I'm going to propose the gift card to add Cumberland to this next meeting, I'll bring it back to you. And we are looking at a heating assistance program. I did get more information about that. I was concerned how we would do that if people use different oil companies. We can write a check directly to an oil company. I talked to Barbara Palmer, actually does it, and she's on that board, so she was able to bring some information. So I will be bringing that back to ARPA for heating assistance as well as gasoline.
Okay, I'll make a motion then to allocate $20,000 for gift card purchases for those in need from Shaw's Stop and Shop, Walmart, and Job Lot in $50 increments. Money to come from ARPA.
Second.
All those in favor? The ayes have it.
Okay, now what did you say we'll have left in ARPA after these?
We still will have, close to, I think, we still will have, after all these, about 200,000. In my report, I was gonna actually talk about what I want to propose with that.
Can I,
Oh, go ahead.
can I just add one thing to the, I know we can't add it tonight, but I think at ARPA members also agreed that we would purchase more COVID-19 tests that aren't
We were gonna look into if we
expired.
could get them for free or not, and yes, if we can.
But I
we're
mean,
gonna put
even
five,
if-
I think $5,000, we
I
said,
think we
yeah.
did. 'Cause, I mean, even if
Yeah.
residents can get them for
Yes.
free, as a town, it'd be nice if they can come in like they did
Yes.
for several years to, the town clerk or the library.
And we had plenty left over.
Yeah, but well, now we don't, though.
Well,
And-
some are
and they
I think they.
expire.
Some
Expires.
expired, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we shouldn't buy too many, but I
No.
feel like it's kind of on the upswing again. It's not going away anytime
Everybody's
soon.
So-
Yeah, I know, it's,
So we could look into,
so I don't think we can add it now, because it wasn't.
no, and
an
I've got
agenda
to look
item.
at my notes and see what I was checking on
think it was
that.
5,000.
Okay, yep. Do you want to go back to my
Yeah,
report,
let's-
and that'll answer
let's-
some of the.
Yeah, so let's go back, let's start from the bottom. I mean, you discussed National Grid.
Yeah, the only thing is my
Sorry.
report we skipped, I think.
Yeah, your
So
report.
National Grid, we did Lake Properties meeting, that was an assessors meeting regarding the lake properties. I want to thank the residents for a very respectful meeting, and I want to thank Ann and the Board of Assessors for being so transparent. I think that more than anything, people just needed to see how things happen.
work.
And-
yeah.
And thank you to everybody for being respectful and adult about it in a world where we are not always about these discussions. I want to thank Lynn and her team for a successful statewide primary on September 3rd. And then finally, Streeter Beach. So on September 5th, they had the opportunity to visit G&F Manufacturing and Mr. Argytis. He toured me around the property. We had a long talk about the roadway possibilities, the history of all this. We had prior $35,000 allocated per town meeting for this to start work. I'm able to use that money to work with KP Law, so I don't have to take it out of our legal budget to start the work on title search and anything else. I have since spoken with Heather, and we are going to go back out to GNF and talk about, the biggest concern is roadway access. DOT may not allow a side-by-side access. Mr. Argytis is perfectly happy to have us drive by, but we may have to share an entrance. And so we're going to work logistically with him on that. I am likely going to go back to ARPA next month and use the remainder of those allocated funds, if I can, to hopefully do Streeter Beach access. I think that we go back to the spirit of this, and I know Selectwoman Dowling has been very strong about it being used for things that we otherwise could not or would not do, and the surveys all showed recreational and outdoors. There's clearly a will for Streeter Beach townwide. So I'm hopeful. I talked to Heather, and depending if we did like a dirt path, a gravel path down, a couple $100,000 might cover the design and the actual work. So I'm going that direction, but I want to give you an update on that, and that goes back to Ms. Dowling's question about the fact that we have about a couple $100,000 left in ARPA.
Ms. Blanchard's.
Oh, Ms. Blanchard
I
and Ms.
know.
Dowling. I don't know which. Ms. Blanchard, Ms. Dowling, Ms. Mary.
We've got a lot of Marys here.
Mary, was that Rob Peru when I was a little girl? It was Miss Mary.
All right, questions
That's it
the
from
board?
me.
Comments, questions?
Okay, the ARPA money, I know I've asked this before, but is there any way we can put aside maybe, I don't know, $500 or $1,000 to redo the door at the library?
Yes, yes, you did mention that,
Thank
yes.
you, you did, and we didn't bring, we
My-
didn't discuss
my
it.
bad. Yep.
It's an excellent idea.
Yep, and that's an
So,
easy one. Yes,
Okay.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I know
you
I
did
wrote it
raise
down
that
too.
before, I'm sorry. I
Yes,
forgot
I
as well.
apologize, it totally went off my radar.
That's a good,
Yep, thank you.
I don't remember you bringing it up, and I don't believe you.
Hey,
I don't remember it either. But I believe you.
thank you, Mary, thank you.
All right, old business, Mary Lou.
No, that was it.
Mary Dowling?
just that I know it's a busy time and you're probably going to get to it, but we were going to have some kind of meeting in the fall about looking at our policy on
They're in
our
draft form,
reserves.
they are in draft form, Barbara was just out
Oh, good,
a week,
okay.
but we're ready to get that to you probably within the next couple weeks.
Awesome.
Yep.
No other.
Mary Blanchard?
I have none.
I have none. New business, Mary Blanchard?
None.
Mary Dowling?
Nope.
Mary Lou?
Nope.
And
Can I just throw a very quick one out there? Charging stations, so Charlie Blanchard, head of our senior building committee, came to me. We by law in the new construction are required to have the infrastructure for a charging station at any new construction. We are looking at doing one at the senior center because we have to have the infrastructure there anyway. Considering possibly putting one charging station at the new parking lot, all of this under the pretense that we can get these in for free. So if they are for free, we likely will be looking at putting them in since we've had to do the infrastructure anyway at the senior center. We do have some bids, not bids, but soliciting from companies that have indicated they do the work through National Grid funding completely. And there are two options. We can either take ownership and have to manage the money and the charging and manage it, or, which I like better, is we don't take any ownership of it. One of them gives us a 50% profit share. We do no work and we collect 50% of the profit with no expenses of time maintenance or anything else. It seems cleaner. So if the board is amenable to me looking at something like that, letting a private company come in, we get some type of a profit share and we're good. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't have to do any, we don't have to assign anybody to it and we make money.
yeah, mostly I'm worried about just making sure that if it is one that you have, if we're digging underneath, that we have adequate wiring run, so we don't have to ever open it up just for that
Yeah,
reason.
no, well, and that's why the senior center is already
Yeah.
wired properly
Okay,
for
good,
it.
yeah.
And then we figured if we're going to do it for free, we might as well put one at 501 Main, because we do have a lot of people in and out from different communities who may want to charge while
Yeah.
they're eating dinner.
Yeah, you might want to ask the businesses what
Yes,
they think the
yes.
need would be, because if it's gonna help them, we
Yeah, absolutely.
do as many as we
Yep.
need to do within reason. Okay.
That's it.
Great, thank you. I have no new business correspondence. I have just an email from,
We have one letter, email from a resident on Mashpog Road highlighting her concerns about the traffic on Route 15 near Pilot Travel Center. She indicates that she witnessed Pilot employees stopping traffic themselves on Route 15 to allow tractor-trailer trucks to exit their establishment. She identifies the date as August 28th at 6 o'clock. She is hoping that this problem will be addressed. She indicates it does not only disrupt the flow of traffic, but that it's a safety and inconvenience to residents on the road. And I might personally add that road is access to getting to the hospital as well, off of the pipe, off of 84. So it is something that we have to.
yeah, and I think we reached out on this very topic. I think we reached out to the chief,
Yes.
and he told us that he'd have somebody go and engage them and see that they're not, that the pilot is not taking the traffic laws of the Commonwealth into their own hands. So we appreciate. Okay, and then I think we're on to minutes. All right, we are on the July 1st, 2024 meeting minutes.
It's interesting, this is exactly, we could have looked at this, because this was the whole hearing, and
So
everything
she's
Jamie.
not tough enough to stay the whole time, guys.
If you have anything left, I'm glad to answer.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
All right, sorry, Mary, I didn't mean. to
No,
interrupt
it's
you.
just, we could have kind of read from this, it's a nice summary that Michelle has of the same concerns we had tonight, and we had them on July 1st, too, so.
I just saw that.
Yeah, I didn't, I'll
So-
be honest, I didn't read them thoroughly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's,
Matter of fact, I didn't read them.
Oh, wow.
Well, I got my packet late.
Why didn't you just get out of here then?
Hey,
All right, any edits to the minutes?
I just have one,
Yep.
okay. So on page 168, Michelle, halfway down, select person Mary Dowling would feel exactly the way Mr. Kane feels if she were in the situation, and feels that the company is doing what is best for the company, not for customer residents. Can we scratch for customer residents and insert what is best for the company, and not necessarily taking into account the concerns of residents affected by the removal of trees? Just to make it a little clearer. Okay, and one other change. She feels that after getting input from the town and residents, National Grid will change its plans. Change will to may. That's it.
Makes sense to me. All right, any other alterations to the meeting minutes of July 1st, 2024?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 1st, 2024 as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, all those in favor? Ayes have them. Going to the August 5th, 2024 meeting minutes. Any edits? Mary Lou, Mary Blanchard? Mary Lou?
No?
Okay, do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of August 5th, 2024.
Second?
All those in favor?
And Michelle, I'm
abstention.
abstaining. Yeah,
Yep.
abstaining.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, citizens forum? Whoa.
Whoa.
Easy, Tiger,
Angry citizen,
easy.
an angry citizen.
I guess, they're sabotaging me. All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, she beat you. Do we have a second? Second. So Mary Blanchard made a motion to adjourn. I seconded. How does the board vote?
We are in favor, baby.
All right.